The big one this weekend, Arsenal against Manchester United, has delivered some of the best classics in Premier League history. Two sides that will go hammer and tong regardless of the situation. The last four results are actually fascinating. United won the last one 3-2, Arsenal 3-1, Manchester United 3-1, and then Arsenal 3-2. This is just made for another one of those games. At the moment, United have been so open in games. Arsenal, obviously, against Fulham weren't great. It's the one you're sitting down on a Sunday getting a cup of tea for, isn't it?
Yeah, well, looking at those past results, we guaranteed goals. Hopefully I haven't put the nail in the coffin with that comment. I just can't see past Arsenal at home. I'm expecting a reaction out of them. They'll be disappointed with the Fulham result. I thought they managed the game really well. Just the last 20 minutes, they done the hard work, come from behind, and then to allow Fulham back into the game to level will be a disappointment. And I'm sure that Arteta will be... in fact, all the players will be looking forward to this fixture all week, and it always tends to give us goals.
I do wonder about this, because Arsenal come into this in a period where they're tinkering so much. Kai Havertz playing as this midfield eight, which I know you don't enjoy very much. We'll come to that in a second. Then you've got Partey as a right back at the moment. Gabriel, who's brilliant at winning aerial duels from last season, not involved. I don't think they concede that goal against Fulham, especially the second one, if Gabriel starts. I just feel like they lack organisation when he's not in the back line. Of course, there's no Zinchenko at left back. It was Timber. They're just tinkering. And I feel like you were probably one or two moments or signings away from winning the league last year.
Yeah.
Why are we playing Kai Havertz as a left-sided eight?
Oh, man.
I know you've waited for this all week.
Oh, man. I do not understand it. As a man who's watched a lot of Kai Havertz at Chelsea, of course, he scored the winning goal in the Champions League final for Chelsea. He's a great player. At number 8, he is not. In my humble opinion, maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I just don't see him as a player who can play that role. I always compare it to that Liverpool side that went on the run and won the Champions League and won the Premier League. Arsenal's goal scoring threats come from out wide, and that's in Saka and Martinelli. They can replicate what Salah and Mane gave you. What they need is a number 9 that can drop deep, create space, and create opportunities for the wide men. I think Kai Havertz can do that role, as like what Firmino did, is that false 9. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus can do that role, but I don't think he's too interested in providing the service for those two players. And I think that's what Havertz can do perfectly for Arsenal. You have a midfield. At the base, you have Thomas Partey, you have Declan Rice, you have Martin Odegaard. For me, that's what Arsenal's starting 11 should be, but obviously Arteta's got his own ideas. They were hampered by the Timber injury. That really derailed them because he looked really good in pre-season and in their first game against Forest. But I don't see the cohesion here of Arsenal, despite the fact that I think they'll have a good outing against Manchester United this weekend.
You're not feeling the tinkering, or are you?
Well, it's a tough one. Because I do agree that sort of front three with Saka and Martinelli, Jesus or Nketiah at this moment in time, and Odegaard, that sort of that diamond, that 4 worked so well last season, and it was a joy to watch. And they undone most defences in the Premier League, apart from one, and that's Manchester City. And I think we can all sit here and we can all agree that Manchester City are the best team in the Premier League at the moment. And Pep constantly tinkers. He was the one that won the Premier League without playing a 9. He got rid of one of the world's best 9s in Aguero and won the Premier League at a canter. He's the one with the inverted fullbacks that every manager seems to be copying at the moment as well. So I think if the best can tinker, the second best has to tinker.
Surely that's down to your squad and the sort of quality you have.
And that is why he's brought the likes of the people he's brought in, so the Kai Havertz. And listen, I do feel for Kai Havertz because I don't think that the Premier League's seen the best of him. I can sit here and I can honestly say that I'm not sure where his best position is, but if the managers that are signing him can see something in him, there's got to be something there. So I'm all for a little bit of time. Listen, we're like 3 weekends in. It's very early to say it's all Kai Havertz's fault, because from where I'm sitting, Fulham went 1-0 up and they came back to 2-1 and they done it the hard way, but they came back. That's conceding a late goal has got nothing to do with Kai Havertz. Yet he seems to have bared the brunt of that draw. So I think there's a bit of... He's becoming a bit of a scapegoat. And I actually think he was lined up for that before he'd even kicked the ball.
Yeah.
There was the moment out in the States where he'd done the crossing and finishing drill. I felt for him because it didn't go too well. But not everyone's out there to perform Do you know what I mean? Like, all eyes were on him. That was a difficult one, and obviously you could see his confidence almost draining away from him as those crosses were coming in. So I think it's really harsh to pin all this on Kai Havertz. And we touched on Gabriel not playing, so that's knocked on the effect of Ben White having to drop into centre back. And then who'd you play at right back? Well, Timber has obviously got injured, so he's trying to put Kapati in there and play that inverted wing back, full back role like Pep Guardiola's done. So I'm all for it. It's just you can't do too much of it, and I do feel sorry for Kai Havertz at the moment.
You've got Arsenal's problem there in midfield, but it's not a new thing. The Kai Havertz thing, I think you're spot on with. I don't think this is Kai Havertz's fault. Last season, Arsenal, out of their 19 home games, conceded first on 7 occasions. It's not a new thing that Arsenal concede goals at home. That also brings me to Manchester United and their defensive problems, because Luke Shaw's injured, Malassia's injured. At the current time of recording, they're trying to get Cucurella through the door because they need a left back. Varane's now picked up an injury, so you wonder who'll play at centre back. Change a goalkeeper who had a bit of goalkeeping for one of the goals against Nottingham Forest was atrocious. And then you've got Casemiro, who's now sort of he's getting the Kai Havertz treatment a little bit, where people are saying everything's his fault. Where do you point Manchester United's problems?
It's all over, really. Midfield's the biggest issue. They haven't got a tempo setter in there. They've got midfielders that are tenacious, and they've got midfielders that want to do what Ten Hag wants them to do, in terms of, if you heard him in pre-season, Ten Hag says he wants Manchester United to be the best transitional team in the world, hyper aggressive, and they've got midfielders that can do that. They've got Bruno Fernandes, they've got Casemiro, who maybe needs a bit of protection, and Mason Mount, who's now out injured, but they haven't got a tempo setter. They were chasing Frankie de Jong for the whole of last summer for a reason. Somebody who can put the foot on the ball, see the game for what it is, and create opportunities and chances for his team in a more concise manner than what they're doing at the moment. I mean, like, it's a bit frantic at the moment. It's a bit up and down, and it leaves themselves susceptible to conceding goals, and that's why we've seen them concede goals this season. I think their big issue in this game is going to be their fullbacks, though, because Dallow's probably going to have to play as a left back. Dallow up against Bukayo Saka is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. And that's why I want to see Arsenal go with Ben White as their right back. I know we live in the world of inverted fullbacks, but what Ben White provided for Arsenal that Partey can't is that option out wide and that threat of an overlap rather than consistently going infield. And I feel like that when Arsenal at their best, it's when Saka's out wide, giving his fullback nightmares, and you've got the threat of the fullback either overlapping or underlapping. And so that's what I want to see from Arsenal in terms of exploiting Manchester United's deficiencies, but for United the problems are clearly in midfield and in the fullback positions.
I think the discourse on social media is around Manchester United defensively, but then also going forward. Last season, Marcus Rashford had a purple patch, but in reality, I think a lot of people are sat there thinking, how does a Ten Hag Manchester United team actually score goals? What is their route to goal? Is it just Bruno Fernandes? Is there something deeper that maybe we're missing? Because they seem to be refining their feet despite what most people regard as a very good season last season.
Yeah, I think that Marcus Rashford's form papered over a lot of cracks last season. And after Ten Hag's been in charge over a year, I'm not sure what Manchester United are still. And I think that's a bit of a worry. We know what a Jurgen Klopp team does. We know what a Pep team does. We know what an Eddie Howe team does. What do Manchester United look like under Ten Hag? And they look... they look a mess. In all honesty, conceding 2 goals to Nottingham Forest in the opening minutes of a game. I mean, Marcus Rashford was the one that was chasing a 1 year back. I mean, how has that happened? How is your striker not in the box on a corner? So I think you can't pinpoint one place for Manchester United. I think Casemiro bears the brunt of it, but he is a defensive midfielder with zero help or cover around him. I think he's doing very well at what he does, but he could do with help, especially in this game. If Arteta's going to play 2-8s in Odegaard and Kai Havertz, because which one does Casemiro go to? As far as I just feel as though Manchester United's team have got so many underperforming stars in it. So
would you say that is the problem? Because you just said there's no identity, and Kweku was nodding his head at the fact there's no identity. So
there might be an identity. I just can't see it.
So would you then point your frustration or focus at maybe Ten Hag in this case, because they've brought in a new goalkeeper? They had a fully fit back four for at least 2 or 3 games. They've had a fully fit front four as well. Fans are frustrated he's starting Anthony. There's a feeling that actually, although everyone's fit and you plug in the gaps, and yes, you pick up injuries like every other team does, Ten Hag seems to not get much of the criticism, and the players often get the criticism.
Yeah, it doesn't, and it hasn't seemed like a happy camp for a long time to me, Manchester United, and that's from the outside. I can understand the goalkeeping change. He wanted a goalkeeper that can play out with his feet, and Nana can certainly do that. But when I look at the likes of Martial, I mean, I think Manchester United fans have wanted more for him for 5 years. The potential's there, and in glimpses we see it, and we think, why can't we say that every week? Because he's exceptional when he does turn it on. Sancho, I think they expected more of when he came from Dortmund, especially that link up between him and Haaland that we'd seen so many times in the Champions League and the Bundesliga. And then Anthony. Anthony seems to me like he's got one trick, and that's the cut in and shoot with his left foot. I don't seem to like his demeanour. There's a lot of throwing his arms in the air, and I don't think that's very harmonious for a squad. By all means, go in the dressing room and rip strips off each other, tell each other what you think about each other, but acts like that for behind closed doors. That's maybe me just being old school.
Sounds like you agree with absolutely everything Glenn said there.
No, I do.
Rare occurrence.
I do. And I think you have to level some criticism at Ten Hag. I think he did a fantastic job in his first season, finishing the top 4, winning the trophy. That's great. There's some situation I want to see him coach himself out of. I don't think going to try and buy a makeshift or like a replacement left back because your 2 left backs are injured is the solution for Manchester United when everybody knows they need a centre midfielder. And his talent ID leaves a lot to be desired in terms of players that he's brought in. Very familiar players in terms of they played in Eredivisie or they played under him at Ajax, but I don't know if he should be the man entrusted in bringing players into Manchester United. A fantastic coach, but a lot of the signs that he's made hasn't worked out.
All right, let's get predictions. Arsenal United, always a classic. Did you jinx it?
Quite likely. I am going to go for an Arsenal win. I'm going to go 4-2.
Ooh, bravery.
I like it. I'm going 3-1 Arsenal.
I mean, it's still only a 2-goal difference. I will go 4-1 Arsenal. I think United are too open. Ødegaard loves sort of hanging behind the 6, and Casemiro at the moment can't see from his left to his right, and mainly because he has no support with him, and Maddison ran him ragged in that Spurs game. Arsenal are much more clinical, so 4-1. Let us know if you think Manchester United will win, and drop your predictions in the comments below.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.